Well, good evening and welcome to the City of Douglasville Planning Commission meeting. I am Francisco Artley, the chairman of the Planning Commission. The other members of the Planning Commission are Keith Burnett, the vice chair, Natalie Fegan, Nathan Zachary, Ralph Benton, and Mark Van. The staff members are Shayla Reed, Community Development Director, Lynn Woodward, Staff Attorney, Dana Gray, Senior Planner, and Chelsea Tubbs, Planner 1. There are a few protocol items I need to make you aware of before we start the meeting. Please listen closely on how tonight's meeting will be conducted. Keep your comments and presentation on a professional level, dealing with the facts that are important for this commission to make its decision. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. You'll receive a warning from the chair if you deviate from this requirement. A second deviation will result in a request for you to leave the meeting and the premises for the evening. Refrain from any applause or comments from the audience. Only one person will be talking at a time, and all comments will be made at the podium after the speaker has been recognized by the chair. Please direct all comments to the chair and the commission, not to the audience or the staff. Please do not applaud or react to the speakers. Speak from the audience, cheer, carry on a conversation with others in the audience, or disrupt the order of this meeting in any way. Be aware that these hearings are not a debate or an opportunity to ask questions which must be answered by any individual tonight, but merely an opportunity to present information to the commission. Other than the applicant, no person may speak more than once. The applicant may reserve part of their speaking time as a rebuttal and may speak next and last and may use the entire 20 minutes allotted for the pro side of the application. Other than the applicant, no person may speak longer than 5 minutes. If you have a cell phone or any other electronic device, I ask that you either power them off or put them into silent mode. If anyone wishes to speak tonight, please fill out a form available on the table up front and hand it to the staff before approaching the podium. After the case is called, we will hear next from the staff regarding any relevant information to the case. The commission members will be free to ask questions at any time before the vote on a project. Following the applicant, anyone who wishes to speak for or against the project or just ask questions will have an opportunity to do so. The city ordinance restricts each side to a maximum of 20 minutes, or time may be waived at the discretion of the presiding official. If questions are raised, we may ask the applicant to speak again. Afterward, we will call for a motion and a second and have any necessary discussion. And if the matter is not tabled, we will vote to recommend approval or denial of the application. This commission is only a recommending body. The items will be heard by the mayor and council whether we recommend approval or recommend denial. All items will be heard by the city's mayor and city council at their legislative meeting on Thursday, December 12th, and then voted upon by them at their meeting on the following Monday, December 16th. The first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes from October 1st, 2024. Is there any need for discussion? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes from the November meeting.
October.
October meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The minutes from the October 1st meeting have been approved. Is there any old business? Okay. The first case is item 24-310. Hold a public hearing to consider a request for a change in zoning from GC General Commercial to PSP Public Semi-Public and PUD Plan Unit Development to PUD Plan Unit Development for plus or minus 82.2 acres located at the intersection of Rose Avenue and Bill Arp Road in Land Lot 161, District 2, Section 5, Parcel ID 016-102-50017, and 016-102-50043. And the land lot 162, District 2, Section 5, parcel ID 016-2025-0029. Application by DRB Group Georgia. Staff will now present the item.
Thank you. Shayla Reed, 6695 Church Street. Giving you a update from your last meeting in October. In October, you heard a proposal for this particular site. Nothing much has changed, but I'll kind of reiterate some things. One thing that I can state that did change was that there was a reduction in the number of units that has been proposed. It's been reduced down to now 482 units. Consisting of 125 single-family detached lots and 357 townhomes that's being proposed for the location. Just to, again, restate some things that the previous report had that it still stands. The city, as you may know, the city has hired a group to do a study out in the area for traffic. That information is still underway. For the Highway 5 area. They will be presenting that information to council on the 12th so that we can understand where they're standing. It's not the final document, it's not the adoption, but it gives council an update on what they've done thus far so that council can understand where they stand in the review for the Highway 5 area. As of the 2nd, on yesterday, we did receive another email from the school system to give us an update on where the new units, as far as the 482 units, stand for the schools. You'll see on page 10 what that information consists of. You'll see that, of course, the first bullet is mentioning where AECOM, the company we're hiring to do the study, they'll be presenting, as I mentioned, on next week. However, the school system has noted that they still do not have enough room for even 482 units. And that they would be forced to put the additional children, if any, in trailers, if that was to be how they would move forward. So with that, staff figured that if this was to be something that you would recommend to approve, we would be recommending to council from a staff's perspective to have a condition that will require this development to be an active adult development of 55 and older. That helps with the transportation issue as well as the school issue, if that would be something that could help mitigate or lessen the concerns of traffic in schools. I will say that it helps to have a reduction, but it still does not change the fact that there will be a high overload for the schools for this particular site if this was to be allowed. So that would be the proposal that we would have, that if it moves forward, it moves forward with the condition.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board?
Nope. Well, I wasn't here last time, so
Okay.
what I heard you say is that the city has hired someone independent to do a study of the traffic on Highway 5.
Correct.
And that study will help with the decision-making process or inform us about this particular case.
Yes, so sometime back before we received this application, the city consulted out to have a group conduct a traffic study to see where we stand in this area. I don't know how often you all are seeing Highway 5, but Highway 5 is very much compacted at times. As you're seeing in my staff report, levels of service is anywhere between C or D, which is sometimes not moving much of the day, and or slowly to move. And because of that, the city decided to do a traffic study to see what ways we could lessen the traffic concerns and should road improvements be created, whatever it may be. In the midst of that, when we received this application, I had conversations with that particular group to say we received an application at that time. I believe it was 782 units, I believe. I may be off by a count. But those units were where I said, hey, what would this do if these units were to come on board when it comes to traffic? They said currently, without that development, you're level C or D. And as you'll see I believe I have a memo on page 13. It kind of gives you an idea of what those level of services look like for C and D. As you're seeing, they're very much full during those times of hours between the morning and evenings. And that's based on the conversation from the group that we have consulted with. Correction, 793 units.
But it's now 482.
That's correct, sir.
Okay. But it's currently zoned general commercial.
Yes, sir.
So we'd still have traffic issues with general commercial zone.
So, yes, so the traffic, and this is how I see things when it comes to residential versus commercial. Let's just say there's an opportunity for a development to close business between 8 and 9. You may have some traffic concerns that may lessen by a certain hour because the business will close at some point. Could it be that the business has certain hours that don't operate after certain days, maybe off? We don't know what those business hours could be. However, residential is all day. There's no closing hours.
I'd argue our 45's all day.
Yes. So that's how we see that.
Wow. Are there any other questions?
Oh, one more question. So you
Yes.
said that you received an email from the school system last week?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, okay.
And that was because they gave us a new plan that lessened their unit number, and we asked them, would this change anything, because they've lessened the numbers. And I couldn't paste that response in there to you that it would not change anything.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Will the applicant come forward and state their name and address for the record? Tell us what you intend to do on this property.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jessica Hill. My business address is 600 Peachtree Street, and I represent DRB Group, the applicant. And I believe we have a presentation if y'all can pull it up. Oh, awesome. I'll probably screw it up. All right, let's see if there we go. And I'm not going to go through the entire presentation, but first I just want to start out by saying, DRB Group would love to have a deferral until the AECOM study is available for review. We believe that the code permits that. The Planning Commission can make a recommendation or take any such other action as it may deem appropriate. And given the fact that there is an ongoing study on Highway 5 and this location and traffic is a major concern, we think that a deferral is appropriate and also permitted by code. But if a deferral is not available, just some background on how we got here. You may remember 2 years ago there was a proposal to rezone this property to industrial for a distribution and warehouse. That ultimately was not. The property is currently zoned general commercial. It's vacant. So we've crossed out commercial use, we've crossed out industrial use, so the last remaining use here is is residential rather. Our initial proposal, as indicated, was 793 residential units, which included 336 apartments and 388 townhomes. We heard community concerns about having the apartments, and so as a result of concerns expressed by staff in the staff report about the density and overall scope, we reduced the density by 40%. It's now 357 townhomes, 125 single-family homes. That's a density of 5.86 units per acre. I realize that 482 units sounds like a lot, but this is an 82-acre site. Surrounding land uses, we're consistent with it. If you look at the staff's report, they answer yes to compliance with all of the criteria that you see for zoning, with the exception of traffic, where there are concerns that are being raised. The comprehensive plan. This is a mixed-use district area. It recommends a diversity of lot sizes, housing types, and sizing to accommodate a variety of stages of life and pedestrian-oriented setting, integrated with the neighborhood's parks, civic spaces, and supportive services. Again, we think that this program with with townhomes and single family is appropriate given the mixed-use district. The comprehensive plan was readopted in 2023. So if something else was proposed on this site, it should have been identified in that comp plan. As far as the density in this location, there are apartments and townhomes that are nearby and adjacent that are more than double the density proposed, and then the adjacent Rosewood and Fairways are at about two units per acre. Again, we think that given the location along Highway 5 in this, more commercial area, we think that the proposal to have a 5.86 units per acre is appropriate. This just shows the connectivity around the area. There will be sidewalks provided on both sides of the road. There's obviously Hunter Memorial Park immediately to the north and west. There's the golf course to the east. Let's see, this just shows distances. The only single-family neighborhood that's abutted is Rosewood to the north, and we're proposing to have a 160-foot buffer that will include a trail along there that can connect to the adjacent park. Traffic. All right, this was, I think, implied in the questions of staff, but if you look at the current zoning of the property, GC, and just assume a 500,000 square foot retail development, which could fit on the site, it's 82 acres, that generates 19,000 daily trips. The proposal for this site plan is 3,909 daily trips. Now that's daily. That's not happening all at a peak hour. That is a daily trip. That is a 31% reduction from what we originally proposed from a traffic perspective. And you can see the slide here if we want to go back to it. But this shows you the differences in the traffics at the peak hours. One thing to be aware of, this isn't going to be built all at once, and this is true for the traffic and this is true for the schools. These units are going to deliver over about a 5-year period. So it's not going to be 482 units all delivering at once. The traffic impact is going to incrementally be delivered into the network. We'll keep going through here. This just shows the access points. We're proposing 2 access points, one on Bill Arp Road, one on Rose Avenue. This project did go through a development of regional impact. It was determined to be appropriate based on that. The traffic study showed that the impacts did not overload the system, and it identified these particular traffic-related improvements. There's a right turn lane off of Bill Arp Road to get onto the property and full access on the way out. And then on Rose Avenue, there is a left turn in and a right turn in, again, separate lanes to get into the project to bring traffic out of the travel lanes, and then full access out with signal upgrades and pedestrian improvements at that location. It's the same thing. Going back to school impacts. So the numbers that we have on this slide are based on a metric that Fulton County uses, because that's what we were able to provide or to be able to find. We understand that Douglas has recently provided a report that identifies about 159 students are expected to be added. Again, that's over about a 5-year delivery. So it's about 30, for rounding, it's about 30 units or 30 individuals each year, and that's spread among 3 schools. You obviously can imagine that there are going to be new housing product in Douglasville. It's going to have an impact on schools, whether this project is improved or not. But the impact on schools will be incremental as it moves forward. I have some market products examples if we want to look at it. These are just products that are in the area. Villages at Brookmont, Laurelwood, Park Center. Here's some of the townhome product that's in the area. And again, these are just what's kind of in the market that we're trying to align with. And then DRB's product, these are townhome products. Clip through, and again, I'm happy to go back to these if you want to see them in more detail. These are single family.
What price range do you have for the townhomes?
The townhomes are, and I'm going to look at my client, as mid-300s.
Okay.
Yeah, and the single families are in the 470s plus, which is aligned with Rosewood, which is immediately adjacent to the north based on home sales in that area. And more single family, and then Q&A. The staff report, as indicated, does show compliance with all of the standards that you were to be considering, with the exception of a concern about traffic. The staff report has been evolving. In September, there were no recommendations made. As far as, conditions or, limitations on scope, in October, the report indicated that there was a proposal for 164 units maximum because of traffic concerns. And in this staff report, which we received yesterday, there's a recommendation that this be an age-restricted unit or age-restricted units with integrated healthcare, commercial and retail, which I can only imagine is more like a continuing care retirement community, not just age-restricted. That is not what DRB builds. That is not what is being requested. It's like ordering a pizza and getting a steak. It's just a completely different application request. We think that the use is appropriate. The staff report documents compliance with every one of the standards of zoning. There was a DRI that evidences that the traffic is appropriate in this location. There's an updated traffic study. We've reduced the density. We ask that you support this application as is, or that you defer it until the AECom study is available and we can evaluate it with better information. And I'll reserve any time for rebuttal. Thank you.
Have you driven that area?
Yes, sir. You asked me that 2 meetings ago. I have driven that area.
All right, I just wanted to make sure you've driven that area. And have you been to the subdivision on Rose Avenue? Was it
Yes, I
Rosewood?
have. I have been in Rosewood and I drove around in the homes.
Right. Do you know what the density is for that one?
That one,
As far as houses and the acres that it's been built on?
it's right around two units per acre,
Okay. And what are you proposing per acre?
5.68.
5.68. And you think that people will want to buy a $470,000 home on the corner of Highway 5 and Rose Avenue that is jam-packed with traffic?
Well, the single-family homes aren't on the corner. If you look at the site plan.
Right, I understand that, but, or even townhomes that are in the mid-300s with the warehouses across the street.
I'm going to introduce Mike Busher, the division president.
Yeah, I'm Mike Busher, Division President of DRB Homes. Happy to answer those questions for you. So, yes, we wouldn't propose it if we didn't believe there was market demand for it. Your question about density is fine, but then you would also have to look to our immediate west and say, what's the density of that apartment complex? Because that has adjacency to the site too. So, sure, to the north, there is a 2.2 unit per acre single-family detached site. There's also adjacent to us an apartment site. Look, I would just say on a high level, as an applicant, pretty frustrating process so far. We've gone through dutifully over the course of about 5 months, meeting with any stakeholder who would want to do so, hearing concerns, listening to objections, all in an effort to try to figure out what is a appropriate and fair, balanced site plan. Never going to make everybody happy. There's not 100 people behind us in opposition. I imagine there's probably some, but that's because we've spent time listening and adjusting that site plan accordingly. The Taylor Mathis application is important as a reference point because it was rejected ultimately not only because of its traffic impact, because it was an incongruent use. That's what the community told us. Rose Ave, the very first meeting we had with them, we were okay with residential. We don't want those lights. We don't want density. That is GC. So, okay, then it comes back down to density. What's appropriate? What's not? That's in the eye of the beholder. What I'm telling you is that this project is certainly financially feasible. We believe in it completely, and we think it matches the needs and demands of our target consumer group. We need the feedback then to say, how is it not congruent with your comprehensive plan, which as we look at it, outlines this very thing. And to Jessica's point, respectfully to Shayla, maybe there's something going on here, but to then present back that, hey, the appropriate site plan might be some kind of senior living care. Okay, then why not put that in the comprehensive plan to begin with, in which case we would never be here.
Right.
But
Were you here at the previous meetings, sir?
Yeah, I am not in attendance here, but yes, I've been in almost every meeting.
Okay, because I know a lot of people showed up, I think, at the first one.
Not really.
And then they came, and then.
Two
so-
people showed up.
No, there was a big group.
No, there wasn't. There was 2 people.
All right, Ms. Natalie, you have a question?
I mean, I think what you said is to determine what's appropriate based on what you've been getting is in the eye of the beholder, but this is based on numbers. If the school system says that they cannot accommodate a certain number of children and the information that you've given us is based on Fulton County Schools, which has tons more schools than we do, that's not even an appropriate metric. And then we still haven't gotten the traffic information. And this is not, I mean, it's a reality for our community, that is a very busy area.
When you say you haven't gotten traffic information, we agree. Our traffic expert has been working with AECom and said, as soon as your data is available, we're happy to reconcile it. So first, let's pause. The DRI process is a regional impact to look at what traffic. That's the very thing you go through a DRI for. Our site, as a DRI, basically said, your level of services are failing today. Your site doesn't move the needle. Okay, so that's like saying, the straw has already broke the camel's back.
Right.
You have a level of service issue. But your DRI process went through methodically and said, here's what the impact is. And then we took 30% of that density away. If traffic is your main concern, as a GC site, there is no winning argument to tell me that traffic is better under its existing zoning. You can't prove that. It's impossible. Traffic is always going to be more meaningfully impacted on a GC site. So a residential site has to have less density and lower peak traffic. It just will. So then we're down to the merits of this specific case, this specific density. And what I'm saying is, it isn't that we have 5,000 people saying, hey, heck no to residential and heck no to your proposed density. Really, they isolated the apartments. And we heard that. That was really the main concern. We don't know if we want rental. We took rental away. Now we are fee simple, owner-occupied homes. We have 30% open space. We've offered to dedicate open space to the city as connectivity. That was something Parks and Rec said might be an interesting enhancement to the overall site. Great. What I'm saying is the objections have moved off, and now we're just standing there saying, what do you think of the merits of our case? If you want to deny a land use based on school overcrowding, fair. But then just say that in your comprehensive plan.
If I may.
Yes, sir.
Well, I empathize with you in regards to this process. I'd appreciate if you entertain some additional questions.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Okay. First of all, you said commercial was out of the picture. Can you explain what you meant by that?
I think what I'm saying is,
No, the lady
Oh.
that was speaking to it, she said she crossed that off the list. Well, why was that?
yeah, what Jessica's point is that as it's currently constructed, someone could by right build a GC building, right? There is no zoning needed for that. And if you just put any amount of size on there, you would have a traffic pattern that would be established based on the square footage. What I'm saying is that application ultimately came forward when Taylor Mathis applied for their kind of industrial data center site. And it wasn't just a vocal minority, it was a vocal majority. Rose Ave leading that challenge.
That's
Change the
different.
zone.
That's a
Right, no, what I'm
warehouse.
saying is
That's
they-
a warehouse. That's
Right,
not general commercial.
my tieback is this.
If you let me finish.
Yeah.
General commercial seems viable, is what I'm trying to say, but you're telling me it's not. And that, referencing back to a warehouse doesn't.
Yeah, I'm not saying GC is or is not viable.
Okay.
I can't speak to whether or not someone hasn't come forward to buy this application as it's currently zoned. I would simply say, though, that there's a reason why a buyer hasn't come. I think part of it is topography. I think part of it is rock. I think part of it is the stream crossing. All those would be antithetical to a typical GC site. That's probably why Taylor Mathis moved all that density towards the middle and why those lights were up against Rose Ave. That was the biggest objection to it. I'm sorry, my point was just to say the GC and industrial uses were only linked in so much as what Rose Avenue and others said to us was, we're not opposed to a residential site here. That's probably the most congruent. You're bordered residential here, and apartments, and residential north. If you're somewhere in between that, we would support it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and that seems to be what we
I
are.
do see the changes, and I've been here every meeting. It was the apartments.
Yeah.
I can tell you, that was probably the most vocal response. I just want to make sure, on the parks and the connection for the trail, it's kind of vague. Was there agreement with the parks and Rec as far as connecting the trails?
So there is, what we have said is we will condition this in any way they see fit. If they want a connectivity or a pedestrian path through that area, great. A little bit of competing interest in so much as some of the people from Rose Avenue expressed that they don't want pedestrian traffic going behind those homes. So I'm just saying, whichever way you would like us to go. Similarly with the open space, if we can dedicate that and it's helpful,
Yeah, but I mean, there's a 180-foot buffer, I think, is what I saw, or maybe 160
160.
between that. And so, and then last question, so the 20% green space, or 17 acres of the 82, you're going to donate that to the city?
what we said was, there's a whole area that's within the buffer that could be used, both pedestrian and just as open, to tie it. We're happy to dedicate that area, right? So long as our density is calculated on the entire site. In other words, if you took that density, that acreage away and you said, well, now, your acre.
Now it's,
Yeah, now it's 60,
58 or
right,
whatever it
then
is.
that wouldn't work. But in a similar case that Jessica and I had with the city of Sandy Springs, that's exactly what we did.
and there's
We had-
there's no commercial element whatsoever within the development?
To our site, no.
Coffee shop or anything?
If there was going to be one, it would have been tied with the apartments, but when those went away, it's now just a fee simple owner-occupied, non-rental residential community.
Okay, thank you.
Yep,
Thank you, sir.
you got it.
Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of the project, ask questions, or make other comments? Please come forward and tell us your name and address. Is there anyone who would like to speak other than in favor of this project? Please come forward and tell us your name and address.
Hi, my name is Naomi Jones, and I'm the Vice President of Rosewood Community, 8920 Alina Rose. And I would just like to be able to say to defer it. I'm glad that they got rid of the apartments. That is a plus. And I would like to really have it deferred to wait for the traffic study, because even just coming here tonight, now Rose Avenue is starting to back up, going toward Veterans Memorial, and now we're cutting through Church Street and everything. So just to be able to get more information before decisions made.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Is there any need for further discussion? I asked if there was any others.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. All right. Do I have a motion regarding this application?
I make a motion to approve this item dash 24310.
All right. Is there a second?
Are you making a motion with the recommendations from, or no?
No recommendations.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I need a second.
Mr. Zachary?
No seconds.
So if we have somebody that won't make, nobody will make a second, then what do we do? Huh? I'm sorry. If staff will please return.
So according to the code, that if there is a motion made without a second, it carries over as a recommendation for denial at that point to council.
Do we
Can we
still?
make an additional recommendation, motion to defer?
So I've explained that to the chairperson, that option of deferring or tabling is not an option that you have at this time.
But we've already had too many?
I can discuss that with you later, but no, you don't
Okay.
have that authority at this time.
So we have to either approve or deny. And if we don't get a second, then it's just denied?
That's correct.
All right. If there is no second, then the motion has been denied and is recommended for denial and will be heard at the City Council's legislative meeting on Thursday, December 12th, and then voted upon following Monday, December 16th. Thank you. The second case is item 24-400. Hold a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from HI Heavy Industrial District to HI Heavy Industrial District for plus or minus 1.124 acres located at 8729 South Flat Rock Road in Land Lot 190, District 2, Section 5, Parcel ID 01900250041. Application by 122 Collision, care of Chris Ray. Staff will now present the item.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dana Gray, 6695 Church Street. This is a request to rezone from high industrial to high industrial to remove a special use condition for a site located at 8729 South Flat Rock Road. There is an existing building on the site. The condition that the applicant would like to remove is from an ordinance from 2016-61, which states uses limited to recycling only. The applicant is proposing a collision repair and finishing business, which is an allowed use. Staff is in support of removing this special condition. However, it will require a new condition that will read as follows: restricted to a collision repair and finishing business only. That concludes.
Are there any questions for staff? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Will the applicant come forward, state their name and address for the record, tell us what you intend to do on the property?
Hi, Chris Ray, 8869 Watkins Mill Road, Winston, Georgia. The intention is to do just that, create a collision repair refinishing facility. We have no other interest. That's all I do. So there wouldn't be any other, automotive demands at that location as far as, say, servicing, tire changes, oil changes, battery, things of that nature. So it's restricted to collision use only.
Right. So according to your picture, that it's behind the current building then, right? Or is that the place you're looking at?
No, the building itself, I would use the pre-existing structure that's there. So, I had purchased this. I believe it was a custom bath products place is what was there prior to
Okay.
to me moving in. And so all we did was, kind of paint the building, clean it up some, add accessible parking. There was only like 3 spots before the gates. We moved the fence further back and striped the rest of the lot and added all the handicap parking, things of that nature. But we didn't change the structure of the building. We just cleaned it up and put in new plants and shrubbery, things of that nature. But the warehouse space is still the way it was. Instead of building custom bath products, we're repairing cars.
Right, okay. I guess I read it wrong. I thought maybe you were adding on to your current business, but this
No.
is, you bought this building and you want to make it
Yes, sir.
for collision for cars and
Yeah,
stuff.
we purchased it last December, so I've had the building for about a year now.
Okay. So you work on old cars?
I do. I have primarily about 90% of my business is just, newer vehicles where somebody has an insurance claim. But
Oh, okay.
I do some custom work and some old cars, and I have a TV show on Discovery Network that comes on every Tuesday if you want to see all the old cars we do. So
All right,
can
sir, I
watch.
appreciate it.
watch me Tuesday at 10 o'clock Eastern Time.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
Are there any questions from the board? All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of the project, ask questions, or make other comments? Please come forward and tell us your name and address. Is there anyone other than in favor of this project? Please come forward and tell us your name and address. All right. Is there any need for further discussion on this matter? Do I have a motion regarding this application?
I'll make a motion to approve item 24-400, removing the recycling stipulation or condition and adding the restriction for collision and repair only.
Second.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes and is recommended for approval and will be heard by the mayor and city council at their legislative meeting on Thursday, December 12th, and then voted upon by them at their meeting on the following Monday, December 16th. Thank you, sir. Are there any staff reports?
Yes. Okay, so I wanted to have a couple of updates for you all. I'll start with giving an idea of the vacancy that we have at this time. I will tell you that I am working with city leadership to fill the seat. I wanted to finish the year, of course, without the seat being filled, but going into the new year with the opportunity of having the seat filled. Anytime there's a vacant position, it makes it tough for you all to miss a meeting. And we wouldn't want to put that level of pressure on you all. So we are working to have the seat filled, but I wanted to wait until we can give it just a little bit more time. So with that being said, we're going into the new year looking for the seat to be filled, okay? Okay, and so I wanted just to give you a quick update on what we're discussing regarding the tabling component. I know we may have tabled in the past, and so this is a conversation that my team, as well as the city's attorney side, we've discussed very heavily, just to confirm that we in fact are moving in what's adopted as far as in that direction. So if you're looking at section 1208, which is your UDO section, I don't know if you all have that in front of you for your UDO, but 1208 will give you all of the room where you see where you have the authorities as your planning commission. And so if you have, do y'all have your tablets with y'all? If you do, you should be able to go on our website and pull the UDO from our planning and zoning page. And if not, I can definitely speak on it for you. So 1208 is the review procedures. And for 4 gives the amendments to text, zoning, and map, which is anytime you have a rezoning or a map, text amendment that will be something triggering, maybe something staff is drafting for. You all have seen a number of text amendments. Okay, so a rezoning is a map amendment. So A3 mentions the Planning Commission public hearings. And so it gives a grand detail of how your meetings are to be ran, how even just now, how it states a motion to recommend approval or denial of an amendment must be approved by an affirmative vote of a quorum or majority, kind of gives that idea. And then it also talks about how it'll move forward if it fails. So just kind of giving that type of language of how it tells how your meeting is held. It does not mention anything about tabling. But then when you go to section 4, which is going to be your city council's public hearing, it talks about in section I, in tabling an action of amendment, each council may approve, table, refer to amendment, yada, yada, yada. With that being said, your council has the authority to table. Tabling is something we have done, but I have found that it's not an authority that we technically have at the Planning Commission. Lynn, I hate to put you on the spotlight, but I will lean to Lynn to be that legal guru to kind of give us the idea.
Yes, so historically, apparently, a lot of the applications come to Planning Commission and get tabled indefinitely, and nothing moves forward. So council decided to take the tabling option out of the committee and reserve that for city council meetings. So As far as a deferral mechanism, even though you do not have the option to table, but if it was appropriate, like waiting for a key information, the city council would have the discretion to table it in order for that information to come in. I think that's it.
Thank
Right,
you,
we
Lynn.
had
What
this,
about multiple motions?
Multiple, say that again?
Yeah, like, I don't like feeling like I'm restricted just to one person beating one person to speak up. You know what I mean? Like, what if we had multiple motions? Like, she wanted to make a motion to approve, and I wanted to make a motion to deny. Is it just whoever speaks up faster?
it's
That
just
doesn't seem normal.
I think it's the first person who speaks and who gets the second, who gets the vote. And that's just how the practice has been. It's not, and this is Robert Rules of Order. It's just whoever makes that motion first.
right.
And then the second allows it to remain and then move forward with a vote.
But like on that one, we didn't get a second, so that's it, there's no.
Yeah, it base,
There's no revote.
Yeah.
So you could
I
have.
was just saying that there's no option for anyone else to make a motion if the first.
Correct. If the first motion was a denial and that failed, then you could have an alternative motion. If the motion was to recommend approval, but that did not pass, that would be deemed a denial. But technically, you would have had a third option, was to take no action, and it would go to the city council without a recommendation.
Right.
Okay.
See, I think my thing is we had this discussion.
So we could have no action, that's an option for us?
it says if no action is taken, it will move forward to city council with no recommendation.
Oh, we didn't know that was an option.
Yeah, well, for a couple of years ago, we had this discussion about tabling it. If we tabled something twice, then that was it was dead. It wouldn't.
Yeah, but we don't have that anymore, because I was at a city council meeting, and they, I think legally have a certain number of times where they can
Two.
table it, so that,
And we were.
and
we were-
I understand that we don't have that option, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that we,
So if I can just kind of go in a little further, council being the decision makers, they should have the authority to hold a project, right?
Right.
A recommending body should not have the authority to stop it before it can get to council. So I think that's where the delays and issues are being had, is that council wants to be able to have items make it to them for decision-making. This is a perfect example. This item has been in our hands since October, but it hasn't made it to council yet. And you can see tonight, they asked for another deferral to allow for it to continue to be postponed. And I will say that council's aware of these projects, just like any resident is aware of these projects, and council's anxious to make decisions and move forward. So I think to give them the courtesy of the seats that they hold, we should also make sure that these items are heard and decisions are made to move it forward for council.
But
so I thought the deferral too was a recommendation. I didn't know that if,
It was, I guess they just took.
that a deferral means the
Right.
council doesn't hear it, because the council doesn't have to agree with our decision to defer.
So you're recommending to defer it to come back to you.
To us, okay.
Yeah, and see, I thought, and I think if the applicant is asking for a deferral, then I think as planning commission, we should be able to grant it if it's the applicant is asking.
Yeah, but that's not,
Versus
that's
us
not on
ta-
us.
Versus us, versus us tabling something, I think if the applicant says, we request to have this deferred,
Then they should pull their application back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay, I just wanted clarity to know, it's either, it's
Yeah.
one motion and it's dead, unless it's a denial and it doesn't pass, then we can make another motion.
Right.
And the other part where I was confused with this whole thing is, I mean, this is a rezoning. Like, the way it's currently zoned is what is approved in the plan. Maybe even in the comprehensive plan, correct?
So each piece of land has to be zoned, right? So
Yeah.
each piece has a zoning. So this particular piece of land has a particular zoning. Your future land use says, if not this zoning, there's a list of zoning that it can have, and it will work if rezoned. So what happens is when you're taking an application in, it's guiding you to say, this should be an approval. If you wish for it to be an approval, it should be these additional lists of changes. For example, if it's going to be, not make it specific to this site, I'm going to speak generally. If the site is zoned R3, but the property has a future land use of PUD, PRD, and so forth, then you'll choose from that list, and your staff is already saying, yes, it meets what council has adopted in their future land use. So that helps you in your approval. However, your comprehensive plan is not going to always give you updates on traffic, updates on schools. You know, if there's not enough sewer capacity, those things are not going to always be listed in a comprehensive plan. So those things for comp plans sometimes have to come off the table. Even if it has the recommendation, you have to look at what type of service would this site have if we were to move it forward. So comp plan helps to guide us. That's why my staff report did not lean towards if the zoning worked. I leaned towards what the density would do for conditions such as traffic in schools, because those are facts. The schools have weighed in, and we know what the traffic is doing.
We're also just humans, and we're on this board because we get to make a decision based on what we feel serves our community best.
You're doing an excellent job.
Not
Yeah.
just what
Thank you.
is being barked at me on what should be approved and what's not.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It's just like, I'm just
I understand. And I just want to make sure you all understood what the roles were, so I made sure this was a staff report to you. I don't want it to be where it seems as if you're kind of in a tight spot to make a decision, so I wanted to give that recommendation over to you to look over to Section 1208 when you have time, just to kind of scan through it and see. If I can help with that, it gives you a chance to kind of know in advance before these tight decisions are being made. So again, thank you all for your time. Thank you all for being committed to what you're doing. We appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shayla, does the vacancy have to be approved by the city council?
Yep.
It does. And it usually comes from that particular ward. I believe that is a Ward 3 seat. So that particular ward members will identify who they would like to see to have that seat, and then they reach out to someone. Once they find that they're confirmed to be interested, council votes on that person.
So you think maybe January?
I don't have a meeting missed. We wouldn't want to have any issues where you can't miss a meeting if needed. So I'm working on it.
All right.
And the date for the January?
Thank you. It should be January 14th.
1 second.
Or January 7th.
See what.
And we'll
Seventh.
soon have
I'm
that
sorry, the
calendar. So
seventh.
the reason she's hesitating is because we haven't not officially compiled our calendar. And the reason we do that, just to give a little bit more insight, council, once they've created their calendar meetings, we then mimic that. Because as you may know, I forget which month it was, but was it, no, it was this one. We usually have our meetings on a different date, but council decided to have theirs on that date. So we have to wait to see what dates they'll have theirs for ours to carry out.
I figured the 14th.
So she's
because
still
we
working on
have
that file.
meetings. So, all right.
Thank
Guess
you.
we'll wait.
Okay.
Is there any further business? If not, I make a recommendation, we adjourn for the year. All right. We are adjourned. Merry Christmas.